More than almost any other genre, RPG fans never have any shortage of great new games in their preferred genre to dive into and look forward to. Among the many promising RPGs coming on the horizon right now, few are looking quite as promising as Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. Though not without its flaws and rough edges, its predecessor has won over more than a few fans since its release several years ago. And now, its sequel is promising an interesting evolution of that formula. Few games have even attempted to deliver on Kingdom Come: Deliverance's premise of a rich open-world RPG rooted in a historical setting, so naturally the sequel's promise of a bigger and more expansive experience that just does that, but with several lessons learned from the first game, is one that has turned a fair few heads. Ahead of Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2's launch then, here we're going to go over 5 such key reasons that have got us excited for the action RPG. Started. Historical setting. The historical setting is basically synonymous with the Kingdom Come: Deliverance series. It's what made the original pitch stand out. Imagine a role-playing game with the systemic depth and flexibility of something like The Elder Scrolls, or a narrative as driven by player choice as something like Mass Effect. But instead of science fiction or fantasy settings, you place it in the real world, in an actual recorded era of history. You play through the life of a man in this era from childhood on and see the world through his eyes. It's an extremely interesting concept, an RPG where you're not relying on magic and alien powers, one where the lore and backstory of the world you're in is in the history of the real one. Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 takes place in 15th century Bohemia, set directly after its predecessor ended, and will presumably dig deeper into the world as it stood at that time, from the tumultuous internal conflict the land is facing, to the shifting allegiances and friendships that the complex political landscape of the era entailed.
Arguing Deutsche. The council represents the king, and the council has decided in his name. Nicholas of Prague here is also a master longswordsman, and we don't need another. Any more than we need your foreign poses.
All right then. So while we face your Nikolaus or any other man, we shall see then who's der wahre Meister and who is just full of hot air.
Whether or not Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 will take the steps to address the deficiencies in the historical accuracy of its predecessor remains to be seen. But regardless, it will certainly stand out for being a unique experience that has few, if any, big budget analogs. Massive open world. The historical tourism aspect is obviously a huge part of Kingdom Come: Deliverance, but just as important to the experience is the size and scope of the world itself. The original game was certainly no slouch in this area, to the extent that a similarly sized sequel would by no means have raised any eyebrows. What Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 is promising, however, is something significantly more expansive. The upcoming sequel is going to have not one, but 2 full-sized open-world maps for players to explore. One of these maps is going to be set in and around Kuttenberg, a dense and thriving city. Back in the early 15th century, which is when the game is set, Kuttenberg was one of the biggest and most active economic hubs in Bohemia, courtesy of its silver mining industry. Getting to explore a dense urban locale in Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2, especially with the series' implicit promise of detail and historical immersion, is an exciting prospect. The Action RPG's developers have also confirmed that the game is going to have more than enough content to keep players occupied for hundreds of hours, not to mention a script exceeding 2.2 million words in length, so clearly it's going to be quite an odyssey. Choice and consequence mechanics. Choice and consequence mechanics in an RPG aren't exactly groundbreaking. They've been a staple of the genre for decades at this point, and we've seen some incredible implementations over the years. But they are certainly always welcome, which means we aren't complaining about their inclusion in Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. In fact, we're positively intrigued by what the game may bring to the table on this front, because it includes not just the standard choice and mechanic system that the players may be used to, making different choices that lead to different outcomes for the story or the quest, including and up to multiple endings influenced by the choice you made, but a new system, in theory, could really add to the game's immersion and variability. In Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2, every action that Henry makes is remembered by all the NPCs in his vicinity. From then on, their memory of what Henry did and how they feel about him will end up influencing their behavior towards him in the future. This doesn't just mean small micro changes to NPC conversations and the like, but theoretically can even alter how certain quests play out, all due to the dispositions of the NPCs involved in them. Again, it remains to be seen how this actually works, but it definitely sounds like an interesting wrinkle to how choice and consequences in RPGs has worked for the longest time, and we're interested to learn more. Eccentric mechanics. The original Kingdom Come Deliverance is remembered strongly and fondly by a sizable audience, and many might argue that a lot of that is down to the game's insistence on being its own weird self. Admittedly, a byproduct of that is some frustrating design choices and eccentric mechanics that might put some players off, such as the way even something like saving is done through limited potions. But many of the game's staunchest fans will tell you that those eccentricities are a huge part of Kingdom Come Deliverance's identity, and what made it stand out from the crowd. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is promising to build on those foundations, and we're excited about that prospect. The likes of Elden Ring, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl have proven to be recent reminders of just how compelling and successful even the most unusual and eccentric open-world experiences can be when they're well designed, and our hope is that KCD 2 will join that list. If nothing else, those kinds of experiences tend to stay much longer in memory than the majority of your run-of-the-mill open-world titles, of which we have no shortage. Improved combat and progression. The original KCD's combat was one among its several weaker departments, though its upcoming sequel promises a more refined experience in that regard. Several improvements have been confirmed, including new ranged weapon types like crossbows and firearms, and crucially enough, all weapons are going to be meaningfully different from each other in how they're used and what their strengths and weaknesses are. That's on top of improvements to controls, responsiveness, animations, and what have you, so hopefully combat will be much tighter. Similarly, progression is also being expanded. Unlike with combat, the first game wasn't necessarily weak in this area, so KCD 2 is starting from a stronger base. In total, players will be managing 6 different skill trees compared to the first game's 3, which means the progression mechanics should ideally have greater range and be more expansive. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is already making a point to focus on players' choice and options in several areas, as we've already touched on. So for genre fans, it's great to see that applying to the progression mechanics as well. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.